Welcome, everyone. We're so happy you're here with us today. Just a few housekeeping items. Please engage in that chat, say hello, keep letting us know where you're tuning in from. If you have questions, please use the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom screen. That is where Ryan and all of our panelists know where to get your questions for the last 10 or 15 minutes when we do Q&A. Other than that, I'm going to pass it off to Jack to get us started.
Thanks, Courtney. And hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Love seeing where everyone is joining from. If you have not told us where, please do hop in. Make sure your chat also says everyone, so you're letting everyone know, and not just a few of us. But I hope you're ready for a good conversation today on moving up the value chain. Quick question for those of you who are in the chat. Who here thinks they have everything figured out in terms of AI to improve their jobs? Put a 1 in the chat if you think you've got it completely handled. Drop a 2 if you could use some tips. And 3, be honest, if you haven't even started thinking about it yet. I'd love to see it. 1, 2, or 3, where's everybody at? But while that's rolling in, today's episode is going to be exploring these topics. I'd say even for a 1.5, maybe some ones that are going to come in, it's okay. You'll definitely learn something from today. And today's panel, we're going to be discussing things like how SEs can elevate their position from reactive technical support to proactive technical support, proactive partners, I mean. The changing collaboration dynamic between SCs and AEs when engaging with especially like your executive C-suite buyers, methods for quantifying ROI of AI integration for use with your teams, and more. If you want to participate in the chat, make sure you've set that chat to everyone. I've said that so many times, but it's very important. And if you have a question, the other piece, be sure to drop it into the Q&A section. There will be Q&A time at the end. But all that out of the way, I don't want to stand in the way of this much longer, so let me introduce our panel for today. First, we have Ryan Lavallee, who is our host for today. He is the VP of Solutions Engineering at Salesforce. Ryan oversees solutions for the manufacturing, automotive, and energy verticals at Salesforce. We have Buddy Waddington, Solutions Consulting Leader at Airtable. Buddy leads Airtable's Pacific SC team, a platform that provide AI across enterprises' most critical business processes, and we'll get to hear from him on AI today. I'd love to hear that. We have Neil, our revenue lead at SiftHub, SiftHub being our partner and sponsor for this event. So thank you, SiftHub. Neil leads revenue expansion for SiftHub across the US and EU. We have also Laura Battersby, who is a senior sales engineer, process intelligence at UiPath. Laura specializes in value-based conversations and value engineering with digital transformation and automation. And finally, Shamil Turner. Last but not least, Shamil is the senior manager of solutions at Figma. He was the founding SC there and has grown the team for over the past 4+ years. Very excited to have this panel here. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to Ryan to kick things off for us. Over to you, Ryan.
Thank you, Jack. I'm so excited to be here, and I can't wait to dig into this topic with our panel this afternoon. So to get things started, I think all of us have had, we've all had a moment, an aha moment where we realize that, wow, AI is really going to change the way that we work. And I think a great way for us to start is just to go around, and I'd love to hear from each of you about what was your aha moment. And Laura, can we start with you? I think we may have temporarily lost Laura, so we'll come back to Laura. Buddy, why don't you lead us off? Tell us about your aha moment.
Yeah, you bet. My aha moment was when I was at my last software company, Sprinkler, and what I learned while talking with different of our customers and our prospects was that the top AI leaders around the world, I saw that they were leaders when they were open to saying, "Hey, we're figuring this out too." Right? They were being really honest of their, note from 1 to 5, like Jack just threw out there. And it made me realize that, okay, we're all in this together. We can be honest, and the folks that are the best experts are the ones that are saying, "Hey, this is what I don't know," so you can be curious to find out more about how to execute AI, about to understand new trends with AI, etc.
Great story. Neil, tell us about your aha moment.
Yeah, of course. Happy to be here. And I think my aha moment it's funny because this was actually one of my primary motivators to come on board with SiftHub. So I was selling in my ex-company, I was selling a conversion rate optimization software. I mean, some folks call it A/B testing. But what I was doing was selling the software to a few Fortune 500 companies. That was my focus. And I used to get these lengthy, terrible, nasty RFPs. I mean, think of thousands of questions across multiple different tabs. You have your, checklists, drop downs, very, very time consuming. And I didn't know my SC team had onboarded a solution in place to help with stuff like this. So I fully expected it to take I mean, more than a week easily, but I had essentially a first draft ready in a few hours. And I think we submitted the RFP in 2 days. So I think that was really an eye-opening moment for me in terms of how much of these manual workflows, especially I can take off SE splits, and how it can free up a lot of time for them to do so much more fun and productive work.
A week to a few hours. That's a pretty big productivity gain from a new technology, huh?
For the first draft, yes.
All right. Thanks, Neil. Let's go to
Yeah.
Shamil. Tell us about
Yeah.
your aha moment, Shamil.
Yeah, so the fun thing about working at Figma and being like the first hire in the solution space was like there's some very practical things I used to have to do. Figma concentrates on the full customer journey. So there's moments where SEs come in early stage before we're selling the product to actually after the customer has been with the product for years, and we have to help them accelerate a workflow to potentially have more license subscriptions or expansion of usage. And so I was in kind of that post-sales world where I was writing a script to migrate like a few thousand users for someone's identity platform. And I remember the time it took to it was a Python script. I had to validate that it worked. I had to build error handling for users that didn't match that state. I had to comment it and QA it before I handed it to the customer to run it. And then about a year ago, like the same need came up for a different customer, and I had no clue where I stored that script back in 2021. So I just literally opened up ChatGPT and kind of started prompting, and I got the script that took hours, if not a day, of like validation on my time away from the business. I got it in minutes, And then what I realized from that, like the aha moment, is that any SC can now up level their game with something that used to be very specialized and make it get to that solution and own that problem for the customer. And in some cases, the output could be available in minutes. So it's an unlock for SCs. And that was my aha moment. Like that, I remember spending all that time agonizing over it. And I'm like, wait, I had this thing done in minutes.
I love that term. It's an unlock. I think that's a great way to describe it. Thanks, Shamil. Looks like we got Laura back. Laura, are you connected? Can you hear us okay?
I am connected. Sorry about that.
Not at all. Fantastic. We were just going around the table and talking about what was your aha moment where you realized that AI was going to have a big impact on the way that you work?
Absolutely. My big aha moment was when we started using the tools internally and then also creating our own chatbots, creating our own assisted way of queuing and querying the process information that we developed. I work within automation, and so identifying processes and clearing those bottlenecks is becoming easier, faster. It's becoming even aware of the nuances that more of a human in the loop. The agents are getting smarter every day, and we're enabled to help them become so.
That's great. Thank you, Laura. It seems like everyone is definitely had some opportunity to see how AI is going to impact the way that we work. Why don't we shift the conversation a little bit to talking about collaboration? I'd love to understand how has AI impacted, in your observations, how has AI impacted the way that solution engineers collaborate with account executives, especially when we're talking about engaging in situations where we're selling to the C-suite? Laura, why don't we start with you for this one?
Yeah, I think the big thing there is it's allowing us to expand our use cases so quickly. AI is opening the door for us to research more quickly our prospects. It's allowing us unfettered access to the industry itself in which we're targeting. It's giving us opportunities to be so much deeper with our prospects and our clients, so much faster, and even to walk into that first handshake, really aware of what their problems potentially could be and a way to help them solve that from day one.
That's great. Thanks, Laura. Neil, let's go to you next. You want to weigh in on collaborating with AEs?
Yeah, no, for sure. And I agree with all the points Laura mentioned, but super helpful in terms of pre and post call work, especially the research part, sending out your follow-up emails, etc. But I think another really important aspect is given how much information is accessible to executive buyers today, AEs are going to be expected to become much more technical. And I think the smarter AEs are starting to leverage AI to become more technical. And I think this has a lot of second order effects for how AEs and SEs collaborate. You're not going to keep pinging SEs for every repetitive question. You also start, and this is a trend I'm seeing in terms of where AEs start to recognize, like, for example, before I would just pull in an SE in a last minute call without knowing how many things they're doing simultaneously or multitasking. If they don't have a block on their calendar, that would mean I can easily add them to a call. That's how I used to think, right? But I think slowly I'm realizing that SEs are doing so many different things at any given time, and they really need deep focus to do that well. So I think, yeah, from an AE SE perspective, definitely helping collaboration in that regard.
All right. Thank you, Neil. Shamil, do you want to weigh in here?
Yeah, I mean, so when I think about collaboration, it all comes down to communication. And I feel like with an SE who's tied to multiple AEs, for them to be effective, quite often there's barriers in communication and context with that. So AI has upped the game to be able to put quick notes, context from deal notes, and actually enrich the communication between an SE and an AE to be able to have that effective moment when they go to the C-suite. Quite often, I know everyone hates this, but you get into the room with a C-suite and the AE is going from the pitch, from like the organic, like no value base, hey, here's what we do. And you're like, you don't want to go into a C-suite conversation without the context of their business. And number one, your teaching moment, right? Like, let's go back to Challenger Sale. Like, you want to come to that C-suite with a moment of enlightenment and that you know their business and you know how your product can affect that business with metrics behind it. And I feel like with first, you solve making sure the SE is comfortable that the AE knows what they're talking about when they go into that meeting. Second, you have, as mentioned by Laura, just this ability to run so much deep research about the customer's business so quickly without actually going through every single historical note that's ever been written. So it allows as a team to go into a C-suite office with those teaching moments where you can align your business and your value prop to how it's going to make them operate better. So I think it's just a huge unlock in communication, but then being more effective in that C-suite room.
I think that's a great topic for us to delve into a little bit deeper. I know we got a lot of folks on the webinar today that would probably love to hear everyone's insights on this. Let's talk about some of those specific AI tools or specific AI capabilities that each of you have implemented that have really helped to kind of elevate us from being reactive to being proactive strategic partners for our customers. We'll go back to the top of the lineup. Laura, we'll start with you on this one.
Yeah, so in the very beginning, we sort of built a chatbot based on what we were using for a chatbot functionality that we needed that was coming out with an autopilot that we had. So autopilot was not fully baked when we really needed to query some of our processes to get to know where some of those bottlenecks were, where some of the area of opportunities lie. And so we used some of the natural language processing available to us, and we leveraged one of our large language models to just quickly build an interface in which you could essentially do a yes or no question, just to get you a little, one rung deeper into the information around that data while you're sort of waiting for that full agentic next opportunity.
Okay, interesting. Shamil, how about you? You want to weigh in here?
Yeah. So going back to the communication aspect, we had a dedicated channel for our account executives to basically escalate their asks rather than waiting for a single SC to go to and basically bring their questions. They post this channel and we eventually respond. We usually have some SE on call to like monitor it over time. What we've been able to do is with one of our AI vendors in the security space, is we've been able to automate the response for those security questions. So as if they tag the category of security, most often there's a Q&A tied to it that we've answered before. There's only so many things you can ask about security. So we've been able to implement that chatbot so that it's been able to provide automated responses when they come up with questions that are known, and we have a very clear Q&A tied to. So it's been able to reduce like these repetitive inquiries because now they can actually search Slack before asking the question. And then number one, it allows us to really focus on true customer need surrounding business pain versus like, hey, what's the answer to, do we have encryption at rest, right? So it's been a game changer for us with like being able to invest in automating the low value tasks that would take away time from SEs to concentrate on actual meaningful work.
I would guess that would open up a lot of more opportunities to do more proactive, more strategic work now that you take and I'm guessing SCs weren't wishing to have that work back. That's probably things they would love to hand off, right?
No, we want to win. Everybody wants to win. We're all a team, and the worst thing you can do is do something that and spend a lot of time on it where there's not a lot of value. It's a checkbox exercise.
That's great. All right, thanks, Shamil. Neil, do you want to weigh in here?
Yeah, no, I love the term Shamil used in terms of how you can take off, low value tasks of SE Split. But essentially, we use our own Slack bot and extension internally, does something very similar, where all these repetitive questions can keep going to, let's say, a Slack bot or an extension. And I've seen a marked improvement or reduction rather in terms of our sales and CS folks constantly pinging the group Slack channel where we have our SEs and product folks. And I think there's also another aspect to it, and I think Shamil put that very well, is how do you not just get a dry answer to the question, but can you converse with these bots or extensions, right? So I want potentially, this is the answer, but what next? Is there a specific workaround or a solution to this potential problem or issue or integration, whatever it may be? But yeah.
That's interesting. Thanks, Neil. And Buddy, let's go to you. What tools have you implemented? Are you experimenting with?
Yeah, a big plus one to what the other panelists have been describing. Another one I would say too is just leveraging Gen AI to translate and transcribe audio recordings. So audio to text, not just or in addition to speed to insight, right? Because being able to not have to take specific notes or to have your notes be organized in a certain way, but also then for other teammates, whether it's other teammates within your account pod or working with leadership, to almost have a fast track of being in that meeting. So then a great conversation around a certain deal cycle strategy or main pain points. So then we can align on fundamentals of where a certain pain is. So then that next, conversation with the customer can be as aligned as possible.
That's great. Great insights. Thanks, Buddy. All right, let's move on to a new topic. So I think this is probably one that comes up on most, if not all, discussions when we get together as pre-sale leaders, and that is the ROI of our teams, right? How do we demonstrate? How do we calculate? How do we show the value that our solution engineering teams are bringing to the business? I'm curious to hear from each of you how the introduction of AI has impacted the way that we quantify the work that our teams are doing, how we quantify ROI. Neil, let's start with you on this one. Do you have thoughts on this?
Yeah. No, I think, like you rightly said, right, given the heavy focus that SE leaders are placing and how leveraging AI tools can increase efficiency, and I think it's not just SE leaders per se, but it's also CEOs and a lot of CROs I've been speaking to who are now prioritizing EBITDA just over vertical ARR growth, right? That means how do we get more efficient and how do we do more work in the same amount of time? So I think what I've seen is a lot of folks measure ROI in terms of time saved, especially with a lot of these new AI tools. But I think how do you link that back to revenue, right? Or how is that moving the needle in terms of revenue? So I think that's easier said than done. Obviously, it's very easy to measure how much time, let's say, a task that you automated saved, right? Did I save X amount of hours on account research or sending XYZ follow-up emails or filling this RFP out? But with those amount of hours you saved, how did that move the needle in terms of revenue? And I think there's a lag there. It probably takes a few quarters to start seeing the impact on your win rates. How many simultaneous opportunities, for example, an SE can work on. So I think there's that downstream lag, but you start seeing these results in terms of tying time saved back into revenue over the course of 2 or 3 quarters is what I've seen so far.
Interesting. So time correlating productivity improvements, correlating saving time to revenue. I guess you have to be a little patient and to see those results.
Exactly.
All right. Thanks, Neil. Buddy, do you want to weigh in here?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with Neil first and foremost, both on the fact that I think time saved, right, increased efficiency is a wonderful way to measure today. I also agree with Neil that it's tricky, right? It's hard to measure all of the benefit that I think we feel, or if not, we definitely forecast as AI gets habituated, right, within the greater pre-sales ecosystem. And I think that's okay. We can still leverage these qualitative anecdotes of saying, hey, within this right deal or within this overall motion or effort, I didn't just save time, but as Neil was describing, I was also able to do X, Y, or Z. Or people, right, teams can feel and come to consensus that overall customer engagement or quality, right, of output within a pre-sales team or an account team was just higher. And I think then that can lead and kind of bring us back to more harder quantified value over time. Also, as Neil was mentioning, it's saying, okay, here are teams that are leveraging AI, and this is the quality of their output. This is the quality of their deal progress. Here's the quality of their overall business growth, right? And seeing that also maybe with everyone year over year, quarter over quarter.
All right, so you're looking at not just the straight quantitative, not just the numbers, but also qualitative measures as well.
Let's embrace those qualitative measures while these quant measures beyond efficiency are tricky. I think that's totally okay.
All right, that's great. Thanks,
And I
Billy.
think I had a quick thought here as well on what Buddy was saying, right?
Please, yeah, go
Typically,
ahead.
yeah, in terms of attribution as well, there's everyone's onboarding so many AI tools. How do you essentially know that it's this tool that contributed to X percentage increase in
Yeah.
win rates, right? So that attribution, I think, right now is a big challenge
Hmm.
because you have a flurry of different tools being onboarded at the same time, right? So you can't really objectively say that, hey, listen, this is what contributed to X percentage increase in whatever metric I want to measure.
Good ad. Thanks, Neil. Shamil, love to get your thoughts
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, so like let's be realistic. AI integration is like becoming the standard in all of our sales products, right? Someone's positioning like, hey, we're going to make you more efficient. We're going to be able to like enhance your workflow in some way, shape, or form. So we have like AI at our fingertips in literally everything we use, from our CRM, project management suites, like security platforms, dealing with RFP. Shout out to Crypto. Right? Like there's always something there for us to enhance. So when making these investments, we go back to the basics, like just time saved is what everybody's been talking about. But there's also this joy element that's qualitative that we have to focus on. Reduction of manual, low value tasks in favor of meaningful work. Everyone exhales when they get that RFP or that security questionnaire and they're like, what the F? I had planned to watch Severance tonight, right? Like that's the reality of things. So essentially, initially, the evaluation is going to be qualitative. Like, what can bring you joy? What sounds cool? What are you excited to leverage? And then the quantitative results will come over time, right? We'll see shifts in activity and duration. We'll see, and it could take a bit to confirm over time of like, what's the qualitative impact amongst this ocean of like new stuff at our fingertips. But the goal is to monitor and measure that shift, right? Do we see the conversion of back in time where we may have called it deal prep or internal collaboration? Do we see that shift to customer facing time? And how do we see these opportunities moving forward with more velocity now that we have more customer facing time available to us? So again, it's like we want to get that ROI immediately and say like, yeah, this is the unlock here, to go back to the language used before. But the reality is it's going to be qualitative. You're going to look for joy, moments of joy, excitement from your SE team, and you're going to say, okay, I have something here. And I believe based on this decision that we will gain meaningful ROI and efficiency down the line. But as Buddy was saying, you're not going to immediately like realize it. You just have to believe in it a bit.
I think those are great points, Shamil, and you know, all of you on this one. I think you know, I think some of these qualitative benefits do show up in quantitative ways down the line. We might see them in if we do employee satisfaction surveys or retention numbers. So there's definitely a correlation there. All right, those are some great thoughts. Let's move on to a new topic. I think everyone probably can relate to this looming threat that we hear sometimes about how AI is going to take our jobs, which I'm guessing probably no one on this panel subscribes to. I certainly don't subscribe to it. I think Jensen Huang said it right when he said, AI is not going to take your job. Some 21-year-old kid using AI is going to take your job. That's probably a more likely outcomes. But we are seeing a lot of changes in our space. The demo automation space has exploded. There's a ton of new players Now we've got a ton of new tools at our disposal that we didn't have a couple of years ago, thanks to AI. I'd like to understand from you as leaders, what are the skills and competencies that you would like to see your teams prioritize as they learn to thrive in this new AI augmented landscape? Laura, let's start with you on this one.
Yeah, I think what's really so critical in utilizing AI well is being successful with your prompts and really learning how to best prompt your language models, how to really be descriptive and prescriptive in what you are needing that to accomplish. And by really getting to know your industry keywords, working with your subject matter experts to educate yourself around the searches that have been fruitful in the past, et cetera. So making sure that you avail yourself to any training and any support within specifically prompting AI is the most, to me, important skill that you can build.
Great points. Prompt engineering, super, super important skill. Absolutely. Buddy, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, huge plus one to what Laura said around prompt engineering. I also think that's a great onboarding to just general concepts about AI, right? Because you learn about prompt engineering and how good prompts work. You're then learning about how LLMs work. You can then be like, okay, what is the non-LLM AI? There's other stuff like that, right? It was already mentioned today around NLP or natural language processing. What about, pattern matching, leveraging cluster analysis? And I'm not right. I have, AI books on my shelf, but I'm not by any means a data scientist or an ML engineer. But that's a great starting point to then understand those concepts. And then lastly, I think that can then get to other key points that our customers or our customers' executives that they deal with when approving an AI effort care about as well, like responsible AI, right? And I say that as an umbrella term around the ethics, the governance, and the security of how models are trained, how models are deployed, and then how models are managed or maintained across our customers' ecosystem. It's just a nice, great setup to say, okay, now every SC has a pretty darn approachable way to become that AI strategist and that AI advisor to their customers.
Great points, buddy. Ethical AI, huge conversation topic right now all over the industry. So thank you for that. Shamil, let's go to you next.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually lean into like the ethical AI, but just the assurance when trying to position your product to a customer and all the AI investments that you've made. Like, let's be honest, from the customer perspective, we have to unblock them for adopting AI and our unique addition of AI that we've curated through our product for them. So it's like, to me, all the LLMs, all the models that exist will eventually become negligible. Like they're all going to be awesome at the end of the day. They're all going to, at some level, be able to execute way better than you would ever be able to in some domain. And that's the beauty of using them. But the thing is not to like overanalyze what model does what, in my eyes. It's be able to like focus on how do you unblock customer adoption for your product's implementation of AI. And to do that, you have to be able to understand like security posture. You have to be able to communicate to your customer base about like how your implementation of AI will align to their company's posture, and that you're unblocking them saying, yes, you know what, we're going to toggle this feature on so that they can derive more value, your product can become more stickier. And the point of that is like once you're able to have nuances surrounding those conversations with the teams that are the gatekeepers of like enabling AI for your feature set, you can do that for any product. You can, as an SC, you are now protected. You have the skill set that's actually tangible because every company is investing in some type of AI within their product set. And the problem is like their prospects, their customers, the people they're pitching it to have all these roadblocks in place. And as an SC, SE, SA, whatever you're calling yourself, as someone in this space, we have to be able to get really good about defending that because we are the tip of the spear here. We're being pulled in to have these conversations. So I would say get good at understanding how to defend your organization's investments in AI to a customer base so they can be enabled. And that will protect you and be a great skill set moving forward as you're looking for growth.
All right. Well, all great thoughts on that, the topic of skills and competencies. It's clear that AI is definitely giving our team some superpowers and allowing us to do things that we couldn't do before. It's also, I think, giving solution engineers more strategic influence because AI is a bigger part of our industry. And of course, us being the technical leaders at the tip of the spear for distribution, we've got a lot of influence within the organization as well as with our customers. I'd love to get some thoughts on how are you measuring that, and how are you communicating the extended impact that your team is having to your executive leadership and other stakeholders? Laura, let's start with you.
Yeah, one of the big ways that we have had success in a really tangible way for my team this year is that chatbot that was built out. We call it Darwin. It was during our hackathon, again, where we needed some simple ways to get some quick answers around data insights, but also internal communications, different records and assets that live within SharePoint or other systems of record, right? And not having to go back and forth to your team just to leverage resources. And so building that chatbot was very successful, our team internally, but then it actually went GA for the entire company because it was so effective at pulling from these different resources and providing some of those insights and analytics on the back end. And so that is, while it's not a KPI, it's not a metric, it wasn't necessarily a project we were working on. Now our sales engineering team has been put in the forefront as the creators of this chatbot. And so that's a really unique and excellent way that we got some kudos this year.
That's fantastic. Way to put your team up on the main stage. That's great. And I love the name Darwin too. That's fantastic. Buddy, what are your thoughts here? Communicating and measuring.
Yeah, I think measuring, and we're from an internal perspective, then looking outward with customers first. And as the last or a few questions ago around measuring, we're trying to measure the success of internal AI efforts and engagements, and leading the way, right, as SEs and as pre-sales professionals. Whether that is using third-party tools, right, or home-built tools or pseudo home-built tools, or leveraging in-house, drinking our own champagne, if you will, through our own platform. And then from there, that's a great just starting point to then consider, okay, what are our customers? How do they think when it comes to their own AI capabilities? And so then I'm seeing now SCs or SEs, right, are taking the leadership in mapping where are those AI decision makers within each of our customers? Are they our, current champions? Are they other stakeholders that we need to be aware of? And now all of a sudden we're seeing then our pre-sales team here advancing and escalating their participation with an overall customer engagement strategy because we're leading the way both internally and then now externally when it comes to AI strategy.
Oh, it's interesting. So you're actually seeing this not only impacting your own organization, but impacting how the customer looks and who you need to influence and how you need to engage customers differently.
100%. Our SCs are becoming our internal AI experts.
Okay. That's great. Great. Let's go to Shamil for some parting thoughts on this one.
Yeah. So like measuring and communicating to leadership about like how AI is impacting the SE world and how we're directly affecting sales and success, it's really difficult, right? But there's one key thing that keeps going back to showing success. So sellers sell based on what works. If they're very much geared towards copying what works. And one of the beauties of AI is now you can take all this unstructured data surrounding all the chorus calls and all the information we collect when we're engaging customers, and take this ocean of transcripts and actually unpack them and look for what are the themes that are working. When we see deals closing, we see them closing with more velocity. We can go into the call transcripts and derive from that what is the overall theme. We then do pattern matching across all the deals that we win, and we can come back and say, for this product line, for this suite, these are the messages that have been working. And now that can ultimately affect everyone across the org in terms of adopting those practices and putting it into their workflows when engaging customers. So it's not being metriced yet. It's not being looked at, but it actually is influencing how we go about our business, because we're able to derive those insights at scale, which we've never been able to do before. It's always been about going to Salesforce, take a look at your structured fields, like why did we lose? And there's a one-liner or one category entry of why we lost, or why did we win? One-liner. And now it's like, no, we have the data, we have the conversations. Let's derive this, make sense of it at scale, and tell people, try this thing because we've seen it work.
That's a great topic that I'd love to get the panel's thoughts on the topic of finding and matching patterns. But before I do, just for everyone out in the audience, we'd love to get some questions from the audience to add to our list here to throw out to our panel. So just a reminder, if you have a question that you'd like to ask the panel, please use the Q&A inside of Zoom. And we'll go ahead and work through those after we get through the preset questions. So getting back to pattern matching. We all know that solution engineers play a big role in driving revenue for the organization, but we're also the voice of the field to product and product strategy. I'm wondering, how can solution engineers leverage AI to identify patterns across customers, across customer needs, customer engagements, and use that to inform product strategy for the organization? Laura, let's start with you here.
Yeah, it all goes back to what I just mentioned. We're using it to find patterns, and we're using it to influence the way that we go to market through building things like our chatbots and our Darwins to scrape and get those insights, creating the connectivity between systems of record by creating those themes, searching through existing opportunities that we have, using all of those different assets that have been created during our different engagements, spinning them together, what works, what doesn't work, what does our run rate look like when we have XYZ in place, and then being able to quickly spin that around and spin those insights back out, utilizing whatever type of AI you use to scrape those metrics is so critical.
It's using AI to analyze metrics. Interesting. Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you, Laura. Neil, love to get your thoughts here.
Yeah, no, huge plus one to what Laura mentioned, and even Shamil in his last answer, or the answer to the last question. Essentially, you have access to such a huge ocean of unstructured data today that AI can harness. You don't need to rely on a single system. But I think the key is integrating all of these disconnected systems and letting your AI harness information from each of them, right? I think Shamil mentioned Chorus, whether it's your call transcripts, emails, your CRM, etc. So imagine being able to harness all of this unstructured information, all the tribal knowledge that's stored within all the conversations, SEs or AEs have had with prospects or customers, and then using that to inform go-to-market strategy. I think it becomes much, much easier to give a very clear direction to your, executives, or even, for example, for SEs to pass feedback on the product in terms of this is clearly what, feature requests that we are getting. And so many other examples, right? I think, for example, even how can I harness information from past deals if I'm selling in a specific niche? Did I close a deal for a similar, what objections came up for a similar deal in the past? Even in terms of knowledge parity for go-to-market, like how do I ensure that my newer A's can access playbooks that my top reps have been using, for example? So I think a lot of use cases, but the key is connecting all these systems together and letting AI harness that.
Interesting thoughts. All right, thank you, Neil. We've got a question from the audience. I'm going to throw this one out and just offer it up if anyone wants to give thoughts or share thoughts on this one. This comes from Cliff. As a job hunter, what questions should I be asking hiring managers regarding their use of AI tools that make the job more enjoyable?
I've got a really quick thought. Other than, in addition to just asking hiring managers right around what the team that you're interviewing for, what AI tools do they use today? But it would be also, I think, really indicative, because we're still really early on establishing habits of AI, of essentially what is in the pipeline, right? It can be framed as, hey, what are AI efforts underway, and how do you see the use of AI within company X or team Y evolving over the next 12 months? And I think that would be a really good signal of how spread or how known AI priorities are. Or if you really enjoy the role and the team and the company and they don't have a solid perspective, it could be a great opportunity for entrepreneurship, right, and driving it on their own.
Great thoughts, buddy. Anyone else have
Yeah.
thoughts for our job hunter?
Cliff, actively hiring at Figma for the enterprise role in Aimer. It's a backfill role. So reach out. But one of the things that we look for are teaching moments. Like just in sales, you're going into someone who knows so much about their business. What don't they know, right? So when you're framing this question to try and figure out how they're making solutions more enjoyable within their organization, frame it in a way where can bring things that you've experienced, that you're excited about, to say, like, I've heard about this. I've heard it has this outcome for our customers or for solutions. Are you guys making any adjustments to how you operate internally in this space? So don't be afraid to bring something you're excited about to the conversation. Number one, it shows your passion for the space. Number two, like, all hiring managers want to understand is like, what can you add? What gaps do we have that you can add to? And if this is something that you're passionate about, it'd be great to know about it in that initial screening. Could make the difference between moving further into the hiring process versus just being like, okay, I didn't see any differentiation with the rest of the candidates that I've interviewed.
Shamil with some great insights and a plug for his open role. So thank you, Shamil. Anyone else have thoughts on this one? Okay, we got another question from the audience. What advice would you give to SEs in an organization with limited AI budgets? Are there accessible tools other than ChatGPT that they can start using on their own to become AI pioneers within their teams? Anyone have a thought here? Free tools, no budget.
Yeah.
No budget is something SEs never ever hear. I know. Come on, some of you have to have a way to overcome this one.
I've got two. Oh, go ahead, Jamil.
No, buddy. Please.
Two quick considerations. One, and it's exactly like the fact that folks are like, hey, jump in Perplexity, like Notebook LM, jump into free tools. Like think about any limitation that you have as an opportunity, right? And obviously within reason. If there's communications by your company saying, hey, we're not going to use AI for this way or that way, that's okay. Gartner changed and updated their overall perspective of how enterprises are either being accelerated in how they adopt AI or being cautious, and that's all right, again, in the name of responsible AI. But another tool too, and to maybe even push, right, in the very constructive way, your stakeholders within your company are what systems do they already have? Because if they're a huge Microsoft shop, they might have access, either really affordable or free access to some AI tools that your IT org just isn't leveraging today. Maybe it's just because of priority. So I think there's a couple different ways within your existing connected systems to try some AI out.
Some great thoughts. Thank you, buddy. Anyone else want to weigh on this? Tools SEs can use on their own? I'll tell you what, the chat really lit up. We should have started with this one. We got more feedback from the crowd on the use of free AI tools. I see Napkin AI in here, Gamma, Perplexity, Notebook. Some of these I know, some of them I don't. So I'm learning a lot today.
I think a free tool I use is one called Granola.
Granola.
Yeah. Essentially, it's not a bot that'll join your call, but it just sits in the background. It's probably the best call summaries I've seen. I don't need to change a thing after these calls. So it really saves me time in terms of, having to summarize my calls, come up with next steps. Really, really crisp.
Good thoughts, Neil. Anyone else have any free tools they want to throw out? Experiences, best practices?
My one plug would be
yeah.
for Otter AI is similar to Granola, does great transcripts, great call notes. I think it's been a very helpful tool. Of course, let people know if you're recording them, but
I just want to give a quick shout out to Andy Spencer in the chat. Like, free tools are not always free. Like, one thing we think about is data privacy. Internally we've been told, like, hey, here's the enterprise version of ChatGPT, Claude, all the great LLMs that are out there that you want to interface with, but please use this because number one, we have a contract that says they will not use our data to better enhance their product. And number two, it's sanctioned, right? So if you are trying to learn, just know that anything you input on the free level will be used by the LLM to enhance their offering. So it's just something, again, you're getting value because it's free, but it's free, really free.
Really, really great point. Yeah, don't put yourself or your organization at risk. Absolutely. Well said. Okay, well, we're getting pretty close to the top of the hour here, and I'd like to invite our panelists. Great, first of all, thank you all for a great conversation. This has been fantastic. I've learned a ton based on the activity in the chat. I'd say the audience has learned a ton too. I'd love to give everyone just an opportunity to give either a closing thought or maybe a piece of advice that you'd like to share with the collective today. Laura, I always start with you, and I'm going to continue to start with you.
We'll
So
keep it
take us away.
consistent. Perfect. I think my closing thought is to keep it really simple, right? AI doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to be incredibly technical. You can get a lot of value from starting small and building as you learn. Start by really properly learning how to prompt and queue, get really deep into the weeds, into just practicing that before actually building something out, and start with a use case for yourself. Maybe automate the stages of your sales process, right? And have an email come to you every time it moves through the process, just to sort of test out what functionality could look like before you start ingesting it and offering it out to your larger team as well. So be patient with yourself, start small, and work from there.
I love that. Be patient with yourself. That's fantastic advice. Thank you so much, Laura. Let's go to Buddy. Buddy, advice, final thoughts?
You got it. Yeah, I think my biggest piece of advice would just to be curious. I'm just learn, try out those new tools. Be, like someone mentioned, right? Read the data handling privacy from Josh. I think that's a great point. Be really curious about what AI does, what are limitations, and what are responsibilities that we, as technical leaders, right, should consider when using AI. A great book. I don't get compensated for this. I'm just a fan of Kate Crawford. There's a book called Atlas of AI that walks through the whole world of what an AI model takes. The water, the minerals, what's needed to actually build out. It's a really fun read for folks that are just curious around what AI is and how it works. There's a lot of great things that we can do with it.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, buddy. I'll have to check that out. Sounds like a great book. Be curious. All right. Fantastic advice. Neil, how about you? Final thoughts, advice?
Yeah. No, I think AI can be intimidating today. Things are changing so fast. There's so many different tools coming out, and I get how that's intimidating for some folks. But like Buddy mentioned, be curious, be inquisitive. Obviously don't shy away from trying out new things. And I feel like as you start out, you start getting better. It's definitely going to elevate how you folks are going about your daily work. And I think we referenced this previously as well, Ryan. There's a few folks who are obviously scared about AI taking our jobs, so on and so forth. I don't think that's going to happen because especially for solutions and sales folks, I think the human-to-human interaction is what is always going to be key, and that's not something AI can ever do.
Good thoughts. Thank you, Neil. And then let's go to Shamil. Do you have advice or a final thought for our audience today?
Yeah, I'm just coming off a global customer experience and solutions offsite in London, led by our awesome leader Shani Taylor, and I'm stealing this from her, but it goes to the root of all great solutions: engineers, architects, consultants, and it's literally like craft is earned through practice, right? Think about Simone Biles, one of the best gymnasts in the world. She has a coach. She practices consistently, right? There's always more that you can do. There's always more that you can learn, but it's up to you to stay motivated to practice, to enhance your craft. So I'll leave it there.
Practice makes perfect. Excellent advice. All right. Thank you, Shamil. Well, let me say thank you to the panelists today. I thought this was a fantastic conversation. Great discussion. Thanks so much. And Jack, I'll hand it back to you to close.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, everybody on the panel, and especially everyone who's joined in the chat, asking questions, contributing their thoughts. I always take down a few notes of things that I need to try out kind of coming out of each of these webinars. So thank you everyone for being here, and look forward to seeing everyone at the next webinar. If you're not familiar with where those are at, subscribe to our newsletter. That's the easiest way to see it, or on our events page on our website. And thanks again to Sift Hub as well for sponsoring today's webinar. we'll see everyone in the next one.